Hey everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Before I just start talking, I do want to say, yeah, it's really hard to see your faces. It's okay. I'm good. I was thinking about this conference, and I've been to a multitude of conferences throughout my career, some tech, some Smoothie King. I think this is the first time I've ever been where people and culture were the first topic up. So I want to thank Desmond for inviting me to the stage and allowing us to lead with what I think is the most important thing in your stores, your people. Quickly about me, my name is Laura Scavone. I'm the Chief People Officer for Smoothie King. We are a franchise brand, so I work for a franchisor. We have 1,300 locations across the United States. Sorry, now California. Sorry about that. This is Java land. That's okay. Just kidding. But we have 1,300 locations, and then we have 45 corporate stores. So in my role, I balance this kind of beautiful game of building and creating programs for our corporate stores, and then also making best practices for our franchisees. So we'll talk a little bit about what we've done at Smoothie King. I like to think that we've had a great amount of success in building culture at Smoothie King. And I'm going to share a couple of insights that we've done and processes and systems that we've implemented. So hopefully you walk away today with some insights. The first, before I even started, go back. Okay. Erase what you just saw. Then on the jars you were looking for. I'm not a jar. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to get you in the right mindset. So I'm going to look for some audience participation. So I want you to think about the last time, and forget the slide you just saw. Think about the last time you went to a brand where you had an amazing guest experience. One where you legitimately walked away going, whoa, how are they hiring? Where did they find these people? That was amazing. So call out what brands come to mind when I ask you that.
Chick-fil-A.
Good job. What was it? Okay. What else?
Nice voice.
Do you represent Nice Brass? Oh, I see you. I see you. In and out. Okay. So you have some amazing brands, right? And so there are a couple that came to mind when I asked myself that question. And spoiler alert, we already know the one we're going to see. I don't think my clinker's working. Oh, there we go. Chick-fil-A. So when I think about Chick-fil-A, I mean, of course, the phrase of my pleasure, right? We all know that. But what I'll tell you is that that's just ingrained in those team members. It's not like they get beaten behind the scenes. Even though there's videos online of that happening, they're jokes. That doesn't really happen. What they've done is they've ingrained this culture and this passion for customer service and leadership that it just comes naturally to the team members. And so when I dive a little deeper, you'll see that it comes straight from a founder, right? They say, we're not in the genie business, we're in the people business, which is amazing. And then we start digging even further, and I was like, well, how are they doing that? So a couple of philosophies they follow. One, people first. Their people are always first. That's how they operate. Two, they've got to servant leadership. They're making sure that their leaders in the stores are guiding, training, and setting the tone and the example of what their team members have, how they should be acting and how they should be thinking. Value-driven purpose, they focus on kindness, integrity, and service. And they focus heavily on recognition and appreciation. And then guess what? That results in a 5-star guest experience. So those are the tenets. That's how they've been successful. So then another brand that came to mind for me. Okay, it's working. Is Dutch Bros. How many? I'm not seeing hands. Have you guys been to Dutch Bros? Just say yes. Yes. Okay. I will admit, the first time I went to Dutch Bros, I was like, what's happening? Like, the barista literally leaned out the window and, like, put her hands. Remember, she's like, hey, like, what's she doing this weekend? And I was like, what is happening? But I drove away thinking, oh my gosh, like she was so passionate about connecting with me and making a relationship with me. And I was a fan for life. And so then when I got into Smoothie King, I called the CPO at Dutch Bros. I'd never been in the food business before Smoothie King. So I was like, Dutch Bros has nailed it. They have the magic mix. So I called her and I said, what are you doing? And how are you hiring easy? And she said, it starts with our founder. Our founder sets the tone saying we're in the relationship business. Notice a trend, Chick-fil-A, right? Then I said, but how are you hiring these people and how are you training them? And she said, we do not talk about the guest to our team members. All we talk about and focus on are our team members. And so then as I dug further, Again, notice the trends along the bottom. They focus on people first, servant leadership. Their values are, make a difference one cup at a time. Recognition and appreciation, and guess what? Five-star review. So now let's talk about a giant that has fallen. So there was a huge brand that had a huge following. They had partners in their stores, and now sales have dropped significantly. Who am I talking about? Starbucks. Y'all, look at this. Look how sad Uncle Howard it is. No, he built this massive enterprise, right? Like, I know restaurant fans for years have been like, how have they done this, right? And I'll tell you, it started with Howard, where he set the tone. He said, we're not in the coffee business, we're in the people business. Again, see that similar trend? But now what's happened? Recently, Howard was interviewed and said, what do you think has happened to Starbucks? He said the culture was not understood. The culture wasn't valued. The culture wasn't being upheld. And I was like, yes, thank you. It reinforces everything that I've been saying to everyone for years, is that culture is your number one driver to your amazing guest experience. And so across the bottom, you can see they've lost their way. Now, they've paid an immense amount of money to Nipples, so we'll see how he performs and if he's able to turn it around. But this is just a great case study on what can happen if you as a founder and a leader build your brand, but then you lose sight of what's most important. So how this all ties to Smoothie King. So at Smoothie King, our mission is to inspire people to live a healthy and active lifestyle. I guarantee you tap any Smoothie King employee and ask them, what's their mission statement? They will without a doubt be able to rattle it off and tell you what it is, because it is it's a part of every single touch point of our employees. And we're going to talk about that today. But we truly believe, and the concept that we have is that our employees are guests. I mean, think about that. Never thought about that. Think about candidates that are applying to come work in your brands. They literally come to your store, eat, right? They buy your product. So you have to make sure that you're treating, even at the candidate stage, candidates and team members as best as you can, because before they work for you and after they work for you, hope that they continue to be your guest. So one of our taglines that we use with our hiring is we say, come for the smoothie, but you stay for the tea. And I'll show you how we focus on that. But before I get started, I'm going to do a quick reality check and share some data with you guys. It's the labor market. I'm so tired of hearing about the labor market and how hard it is to recruit, how hard it is to find talent. At some point, you guys, it's just been become, and I hate this phrase for COVID, but the new normal, right? Like, it's just the status that we're in. And as you look at the data, you see that currently there are 7.4 million jobs that are open in the United States. But when you look at the number of unemployed persons per job opening, it's 0.9. And think about that for a minute. You have 4 positions open in your restaurant, 0.9 per position, right? And think about all the other brands in the industry that are recruiting at the same time as you are. The unemployment rate remains at, or hovering around that 4.2 marker, which means most people who want the job have jobs. So how do you win? Creating a people-first culture is how you win. Because I'll let you have a secret about recruiting. Don't tell me what I told you. The easiest way to recruit is to not have to recruit at all. Oh, thank you. What's that gonna amen? Don't like that. Thank you. But it's true, right? If you can retain your team members, if you focus on building that culture for them and building the right team, that's then how you don't even have to worry about recruiting. Now, spoiler alert, turnover is natural. Like, the odds of you never having to recruit for a position are slim to none. That's just not realistic. But the high turnover rates that we see in the food and beverage industry, specifically QSR space, are off the charts and ridiculous. So things that we've done at Smoothie King, I focus on 3 very simple concepts, very simple tenets that I use internally at our corporate stores, but then also share openly as best practices with our franchisees. It's hire right, we train right, and we treat right. So hire right is all about making sure that you're finding people that want to work for Smoothie King. We want those people that walk in and they're like, so instead of lie, I love Smoothie King. Like, that's who we're looking for, not the like, I've been to so many restaurants, here's my application, you hire me. Like, that's not what we're looking for. So we focus on hire right. I'm going to share some ways that we do that today. And next is train right. Studies will show you the first 90 days of onboarding of a new hire are absolutely critical. And I get it. I have 45 corporate stores. I know how it is to have a GM sitting on the line trying to schedule some hours. They're working on inventory. Oh, your COGS are high. Oh, all the ways you're being pulled. How easy it is for a new hire to show up, just go, jump on the line, good luck, get your apron. That's not the right way to handle it. And I know it's easy for me to say standing up here, but I highly encourage you to press on the importance of onboarding. And we'll talk about that as well. And the last, which is my favorite, is the tree right category. So I'm going to peek out a little, each hour peek out in a little while and show you how a couple of ideas that we do as Smoothie King to make sure that we're building the culture where people really want to stay. So newsflash, and I spent a lot of time right after COVID with our franchisees teaching of this, that you have to shift your mindset about recruiting, because recruiting is marketing, right? It's not about just attracting guests, but those guests are your potential candidates that are going to come work at your store. So I'm going to quickly go over the basics of recruiting, and you guys are probably know this, especially if you're all WorkStream customers, and so you have the tools that WorkStream provides. So thank you very much, Desmond. But number one is just application. Utilize the tools that are at your resource. Make sure that it's simple and fast, because I liken a job search to the candidate to having a sleeve of bow and arrows, and they're just shooting these arrows off into the marketplace trying to find a job. And if they hit a tree, which is a difficult application, it's just going to bounce right off and keep moving on, right? And then guess what? Where do they go work? The first target that they hit. So making sure that you're making this as fast and easy and accessible as possible is a huge key to success recruiting. Selection. So I talked about mindset. We talked about culture. You are setting the tone in your brand. We have our mission that we make every decision by. I know some of you are founders, some of you are franchisees, some of you are GMs. And if you're thinking, oh, I'm a part of this big conglomerate franchisor, that's okay. You can still have your own mission, vision, and culture in your store, which is perfectly acceptable. But you have to understand what it is and then train your managers how to hire for that. So we'll talk about that in a while. And then the basics of then marketing, or recruiting is marketing. You want to focus on awareness. Like, do your candidates know who you are? Do they know that you're hiring? Again, using the tools from WorkStream. Publicize. When you're running a limited time offer in your restaurants, you're out canvassing, right? You're putting it on Facebook. You're handing out flyers. Why aren't you doing that for recruiting? Like, make it the same kind of process. Shifted mindset, like I just talked about, you're not just competing for guests, you're competing for talent. Because again, that first marker they hit with that bow, they're falling. So you really got to make sure that you are focusing on the priority and the importance of speed within recruiting. And then interest, just building champions, right? You do focus on that guest experience because again, those guests are your candidates. So it's this holistic view of just changing a mindset that recruiting is marketing. So then go into our tenants, again, containing. So in the hire space, I'm going to share a couple of tips that I share with our corporate stores, but also our franchisees on how to hire right. So we really do focus on this concept of care. We want that emotional connection that when guests come in, they feel like we absolutely care about their healthy and active lifestyle. So we have to look for candidates that embodied a care mindset. So number one, we look for heart and not just skill. I remember when I first started at Smoothie King, I told our CEO, his name's Juan Kim, I was surprised because I never been in the food space before, but he said, Juan, and they're hiring heartbeats. We need to hire smiles. Like that was my way of describing to him and impressing on him how we were making the wrong hiring decisions. And so we shifted our mindset to look for heart. We want candidates that focus on compassion, empathy, and have that service mindset, because guess what? That's when they're going to make the guests feel like they care. We're going to be the barista with their chin in their hands. That's what you're looking for. Ask behavior-based questions. So I think a lot of times people are like, oh, you filled out an application. Oh my God, you showed up. You're hired, right? No, of course, experience matters, but that energy matters even more, right? And so what it can do is really understand, how do they act as an employee? What has their past experience been like? And guess what? They're a teenager and they've been in school. Okay, ask about school projects. And behavior-based questions are, you ask the question by saying, tell me about a time when, ... right? So at Smoothie King, we have crafted interview templates where we have lined out and done immense research on what it takes to be successful at Smoothie King.
and then to build effectively questionnaires or interview guides for our hiring managers so that one, they're being consistent when they're hiring and looking for the same behaviors and skill sets, but two, they have a million other things to do. They're not experts in this space, right? So we try and give them the tools to help them be successful. Watch for leverage. The thing I learned the hard way, it took me a very long time, he did that, at Smoothie King, to realize our brand has zero room for ego. Like, arrogance and ego do not work well in our brand. So if you look or research any of our C team, you will see and learn that none of them possess ego or arrogance, and it's been a huge recipe to our success. So when we're looking for candidates, we look for people that use V language. Now, am I telling you if they say, well, I did this, then they're hired? No. But if you pick up on that there's a selfish tone or a self-centered tone, at least at Smoothie King, pass. We move on. That's how a service might say it, but notice how they treat you. So I want you to think about the last time you went on an interview. Like, I don't know, it's 8 years ago for me, but man, I was nervous, I dressed up, did my hair, got the nails done, walked in, I'm smiling at everyone, being nice to everyone. Like, who's interviewing me, right? I was at my best when I interviewed. So think about that. When your candidates come in and they're interviewing with you, that's the best you're gonna get. Are they making eye contact? Are they smiling? Are they kind? Are they helpful? How do they treat other people in the store? Because if that's their best, then guess what they're going to do when they're tired and they woke up at hungover or staying up late, watching whatever, come into work and treat your guests that way? Pay attention when they're interviewing, because again, that's the best. And then don't rush the decision. Again, I know it's easy for you to see an ad stand up here. I love this little graphic up, if you can see it very well. It's this guy, he's got a clock and a suitcase and a pair of free pace as she's running. I know that's the world you live in. So again, when you're doing a billion things, if that candidate showed up, but they're breathing, you're like checking the pulse, looking good. They're hired, right? No. And we're gonna talk about it in a minute about how toxic a guy hire can be. But I would highly encourage you, as painful as it is, to not rush hiring decisions. So there's a couple of things that we share with our franchisees. So the next tenet is train right. I talked about how the first 90 days of onboarding are critical. And so we have spent an immense amount of time at Smoothie King building a training program at every level throughout our brand that we roll out consistently and track maniacally. Now, when I say maniacally, we meet every single Monday as an executive team, and every single Monday we look at our inning completion rates among the sales and everything else. But we bash that because we have seen in our own data, with a higher rate of completion, the higher OSAT scores, the higher sales. Obviously, right? If you're training your team members on how to run your business, then you're going to see the results. We have found that our kind of tipping point is 85%. Once we hit 85%, it kind of becomes statistically irrelevant. You don't really get gains from 85 above. But so 85 is our marker that we track on nightly. We focus on first impressions. Again, those first 90 days are important, so we try and make it as fun and uplifting as possible for our team members. We talk about culture before tasks. We explain why. It's change management 101. Like, if you just tell someone to do something, they're going to be like, okay, but you explain the why, and they're going to adopt it more. Consistency wins, so we make sure that's why we have it mapped out, we document it, and then consistent across the brand so that no matter what store a guest goes into, they get a consistent guest experience. Managers make or break it. Oh, you have a manager that doesn't really care about training, doesn't care about culture, just showing up right in their store. That will absolutely break in the first 90 days of onboarding, but also the training success rate. And then training never ends. We keep going. We don't stop here. We have, oh my gosh, the number of trainings that come out for our team members on just a variety of different topics is insane. Our training team does an amazing job. But that's how we make sure we're training our team members right. So we don't stop, though, with our team members. So we can't forget about your managers, right? Strong managers are going to build strong teams. Like, it's kind of obvious, but a lot of people don't think about it that way. Or they don't take the time or energy to focus on the managers. We do a Smoothie King. So we've created what we call the Great Managers Playbook. where the top right corner you can see the wheel. That's our own little internal wheel that we created at the employment life cycle. And the playbook walks managers through every single wheel piece and tells them how to do whatever is encapsulated it to that section. So then what we do is we document the playbook, and then we build training sessions where then we focus on specific modules to help train them. It's not enough to read, right? Everyone's different in how they learn. So what we have found, this is a retention driver. I'm sure you heard people don't lead companies, they need leaders. Here I said they need managers. It is 1000% true. How many times have you quit a job where you're like, I cannot work with that person anymore, I'm done? That's very, very common. It's a culture keeper. So your managers are that guiding star for that store on how your team members are supposed to behave, act, and carry out the duties of their roles, right? So you want to make sure that your manager is trained on what those behaviors are, so then they can exhibit those behaviors themselves. And the last future pipeline, we are very focused on growing our team. We have this concept of buy versus build. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, where we build versus buy. Sorry, I hate the wrong way. But we focus on growing our internal team members so that when a promotional opportunity opens up, we can promote within, versus the buy concept, which is where you're hiring for outside. So building these types of programs just gets your team right. So, treat right geek out. So, I can press on you the importance of team engagement. And I think his graphics, sister, I think it's really funny. And the data across the top came out from a company called The Clean. They do engagement surveys across their thousands and thousands of employers. And they collected all that data, and then across averages, they said within organizations and brands on a consistent basis, what are the engagement scores? So you got a portion of your team. So think about this as your own group, right? Maybe these are your actual numbers for your team. You've got 33% across this system that were loyal, committed, and had higher productivity. So that's the team for me. Rowan, they got the crowns on because they believe in our vision. They believe in our vision. They're doing everything they can to make that store successful. Then you have 51%. Think about that. Half your team is in the stage of not engaged. They're productive, but they're not committed. You're going to see higher absenteeism rates, and they're likely to leave, right? Some are kind of looking up at the distance. Some have at least their oars in the water, but they're not making much progress. And then the most concerning for me is the 16% that are disengaged. So these are ones that are going to be counterproductive. They're promoting disharmony, and they cause an absolute distraction to others. And my favorite part of this graphic is that one of them is about to block another team member on the head. I'm like, really? I think it's awesome. So what happens though, what's going to happen to the front? They're rowing as hard as they can. They're carrying all that weight behind them. They're going to get exhausted, right? They're going to run out of energy, and they're really going to end up to a point where they go, I'm done. Why am I doing this? I guarantee you, they would much rather you kick off those two at the back and boat and they'll keep rowing than row and pull them, right? Toxic employees they're called toxic for a reason. They're so disruptive and so destructive in an environment. You're absolutely going to lose your hardest workers and you retain your poorest workers. So we focus on that a lot. So how do you keep people engaged? I'm going to share with you, we have a multitude of resources that we use at Smoothie King. I don't have time to go through all of them today. I'm going to show you our most recent because I'm really excited on it. In that treat right category, thinking of ways to try and encourage and motivate people and have them feel engaged in the program, we created a care and recognition calendar. So it's literally a 52-week calendar that's mapped out. It's printable, it's electronic, it's a PDF version. They do whatever they want with it. But it's built that for every week, there's a different theme of recognition and appreciation. And you're probably like, well, that's really basic. It is. But surprisingly, they love it. Our franchisees, the number of downloads, it's one of our highest number of downloads from our learning management system. For our franchisee system, they were ecstatic. Because now, one, you can have that consistency across the brand on how everyone's recognizing and caring for their Zoe. But two, you can then incorporate these into all types of different ways. You can have them in your weekend huddle. We can have them as a bullet plan for the manager. Like there's a multitude of ways to bring this to life. But really, the reasons why behind I built this is one, recognition builds retention. They're more likely to stay. There are so many research studies out there, and I didn't bore you today with all the statistics, But if you look up how likely is it my team member will say if I tell them thank you, the results will tell you, and this, I will admit, this was shocking to me. It will say the way to have the most impact on appreciation is each team member needs to be recognized or appreciated once a week. And I was like, oh, I have 10 people on my team at my HR department. And I, even as a culture leader and an HR dork, I was like, oh, how am I going to do that? That's really where this was born. I was like, I needed ideas on how to make sure that I'm continuing to bring this up front and talk to my team about this. So that's number one. The second one, small moments make a big impact. It's not always big, but it is always powerful. Think about yourself. Man, when I share a little bit about myself, but when I have a one-on-one with Juan, and he kind of sits back in his chair and he goes, man, Laura, you're working out so much. Like, this is amazing. I'm like, I get so excited. And guess what? I leave that room and that one-on-one ready to charge through any wall that comes up in front of me because I want more of that, right? That's human nature. That's how we be and that's how we act. He didn't give you a bonus. He didn't pay me more. He didn't promote me. He just told me I was doing a good job, and that motivated me, right? So I know a lot of people in this room are like, I'm not the money to do these things. It didn't cost anything, right? Recognition fuels culture. So what gets recognized gets repeated. Like I just said, he told me good job. I'm like, yeah, he did. I'm going to do it again, right? That's human nature. And then everyone feels cared for differently. Again, I can't see hands. So if you guys heard of love languages? Oh, no. No? Yeah? Okay. I'm like, well, this failed. No. Just kidding. If you Google it, there are 5 love languages. Now, that's personal, not work-related. It's kind of innate to who you are. There's surveys out there, so you kind of learn. Spoiler alert, mine's quality time. You attack me, I will be so happy. But there are the transitions where people have analyzed those love languages and converted them into workplace appreciation languages. So at Smoothie King, I created a quiz to find out that we can give the team members when they onboard to say, what is your workplace style of recognition or recognition style? And so what I've done with that research and that data, because when I created the Pick It To Me calendar, I incorporated all those 5 different work appreciation status, thank you, into the calendar so that you make sure, because everyone's different, you make sure that you're able to touch kind of all the different varieties of how things would be recognized. So it's some way along the way, your team members are getting what really fills their cup, right? To use that analogy. So, and that's been very successful at Smoothie King. So then where are we headed? So one, I will tell you, if again, you look at there are so many HR studies out there. We look at the HR studies for the longest time. One of the number one priorities for HR professionals was recruiting. And for the first time in I don't know how many years, it dropped from 1 to 5. So the recruiting is no longer number 1, retention is. Now, so many brands, myself included, like if people ask me, what keeps you up at night? Like it's retaining my talent. I got such amazing people on our team, and I lose sleep over the idea of not keeping them engaged, not treating them right, not hiring them right? So what the future, though, is I'm also showing is people more and more caring about well-being, which is great news for Smoothie King. We're a healthy and active lifestyle, right? Like that's music to our ears, that is where people are headed. But again, your candidates are your guests, right? So Smoothie King calling my goal when I'm calling a team member is to them to hit accept, to take my call versus hitting reject, right? I want them to get there. So we're going to focus in the next 1 to 3 years, on protecting mental and physical health. It's going to come up more and more often that people, this is what they're hungry for. They want support. They want to feel like you care about them and that you're developing strategies to reduce their opportunities for absenteeism. 2 is where you're going to focus on driving retention. So flexibility is the new currency. And it's been a currency for a while, but it's becoming even more prevalent, where people want to be able to balance this concept of in work and out of work. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to allow for some schedule flexibility, which I know WorkStream has tools to assist and support that. So we're really going to put a much larger focus on that as Smoothie King. And then listen, then act and adapt. I could do a whole 1-hour session on surveying your team members. We do an immense amount of surveying at Smoothie King. We do new hire, engagement, pulse, stay, exit, and But I love it because it allows me to really get the pulse of what's happening in our stores, how are our team members feeling, taking that data and then acting, where that is the most important step of this stage. If you're going to ask, then you have to act. Instead of that first questionnaire, they're going to trust you and tell you how they're feeling and what needs to be fixed. But then you go, oh, cool, all right, moving on. They're like, I'm never going to tell them again, right? So we are very intentional at Smoothie King on making sure that we're utilizing those tools, listening to what our team members want, and then evolving our programs to make sure that we're hitting those goals head out. And then, of course, just at the end of the day, we're continuing to focus on strengthening culture. Well-being isn't a perk. It's just what should be expected. It should just be how we operate every day. But again, it is a trend that's coming up more and more. So we're going to focus on it as a brand. So in closing, I'm almost right on time. Your takeaways for today. I will tell you, if you just remember 3 things, the words, hire right, train right, and treat right. And then as you, as a leader, are working through your stores, your culture, and everything, you can look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, did I hire right? Yeah. Did I train them right? Yes. Am I treating the brand? Yes. You're going to make a huge difference in your culture, and you're going to see the impact.
That is what I have to invest today. Thank you.